Segment 2, Gold and Black Live. Kyle said off the air, I love pinning guys what they say off the air, and they're always nervous now. You don't know what I'm going to say. No, you said we're talking about posture.
I got watching myself up there.
Coach Sherman always, he looks good. He's sitting up straight. I have a terrible problem with that. Kyle's actually is big enough that my problem is at 5'9", I'd better sit up straight or there's problems. But that's more information you wanted. Welcome, Coach Sherman, and I'm glad you're here and glad you're spending your Good Friday afternoon with us, at least for 20 minutes or so. But spring practice is over. You're hitting the road Monday, but you have at least a couple days maybe to kind of reload. And yet in this sport, you never get a whole lot of time to do that.
No, it's always it never ends. You're trying to maintain your players that you have within the program and make sure they're going to class, doing all the things that they're supposed to do before you hit the road.
Yeah.
And then now we're starting to make calls for recruiting and making and setting our trips and flights and chasing them down starting next week for 2015.
Yeah.
So you come off a spring in which you had a couple guys injured, but other guys, with a little bit of experience were able to fill in there. Just how did you feel about how your guys performed out there?
Well, I thought this spring we progressed. From fall to spring. We've grown, we matured, we learned how to practice, we learned how to play the game at a fast pace, getting in and out of the huddle, those things that were hard the first spring. But so we're learning those little things on what we're trying to look for within the offense, and I think we're getting a better grasp of the offense and it's starting to play a little faster.
You obviously have some talent at that position. A couple guys, we talk about the injuries in B.J. Knopf and Cameron Posey are guys that you're going to expect to be mainstays come the fall. But what do you do with the guys that are maybe second line guys, or at least on paper, but to keep them motivated and keep them moving forward so that you can develop some depth as much as possible at that position?
Well, and I think what we try to do is get those guys reps every day, mental reps. Try to learn from the older guys, as much as we can. And then when they get that opportunity, we want them to take advantage of it, and just to go out there and play fast like they've done all their lives, and not worry about making mistakes, and because those things are correctable, but we just want them to play fast and go make plays.
I talked to Darrell Hazel earlier today. He said more 3 wide receiver sets, so that means more of your guys out there on the field. Does that mean more pressure on you to have them ready to go?
Well, I think that's something that's going to help us offensively, is put more receivers on the field. And I think this spring gave us an opportunity to see what guys can and can't do with B.J. Knopf and Cameron Posey being out. With guys like Miles Norwood, who's a redshirt freshman, I think that he's really stepped up and done a lot of great things this spring. So I really like where he's advancing and where he's headed. It gave a guy like Dan Monterosso, who was injured early on in the season, to step up and see what he's capable of doing, and he got a lot of reps because I think he was another guy that was thrown in the fire as a freshman, and so we need to make sure that he's playing fast and being consistent.
You look at a guy like D'Angelo Yancey last year, showed a lot of big playability, and as a freshman. What did he have to do to step up and make steps forward in as far as in spring ball and making that next step to the next level?
Right. Well, I think the biggest thing, not only with D'Angelo, I think with this whole group, our word is consistency. And D'Angelo had a good year for us from a freshman standpoint, but he always didn't seeing things on Saturdays was kind of difficult for him because he didn't understand what he was seeing all the time. He was just playing fast and making plays. But we've challenged him with, hey, you're 6'2", 220. We want you to play 6'2", 220. Play big, play fast, and play strong. And we've challenged him this spring with that. And I think this summer's still going to be very important to him as well.
Yeah, pretty encouraged that Knopf and Posey will come back and pick up sort of where they left off last season.
Well, I'm not a doctor, but I
you can
think,
play one on TV today.
Yeah.
I think both will be ready at some point in time this summer, or going into the preseason camp. I think B.J. Knopf is probably a little bit further ahead, along than Cameron Posey with the knee. But they're both getting mental reps every day, and they're learning, and they're getting in shape. I can tell you that with being around Coach Davis and Coach Carlisle. So They're not losing their edge from that standpoint, but we're still looking for big things from those guys. And I think once those guys get back, that's just added depth along with guys like Miles Norwood,
Right.
Dan Monteroso, and that's just more depth that we can put on the field and help us be successful on Saturdays.
Being able to be physical, and maybe that's also a function of age and being able to spend more time in the weight room. You're talking about Yancey, Monteroso, all guys that came in right out of high school, basically, didn't have the benefit of all the conditioning they've done. What about the physicality of being able to be in the three receiver set and the importance of those guys to be able to block on the edge and be physical? How much has that been stressed, and how much is that going to continue to be a challenge?
Well, that's going to continue to be a challenge. That was one of our goals this spring. Was we wanted to be physical in the perimeter blocking because as freshmen, people are going to take advantage of that. So we tell them all the time they got to get Big Ten fast, Big Ten strong, and if we can do that, and it's a daily process,
Yeah.
and we got to do that every day, every week. And every Saturday, in this league, you got to be a physical presence. And I want these guys to understand that blocking is just as important as catching a pass.
Right.
We're getting some good questions in here. This is a lighthearted one. Well, maybe it isn't, from Boiler Pete. Which receiver has the best hair on the team?
Oh,
Outside of the coach's hair is pretty good, too. But
Best hair.
Best hair. Boy,
I would say Dan Monteroso.
Oh, you gotta go with
because
Monteroso.
he's got the long hair going right now. He says he's not going to cut it until he's a senior.
in this wonderful
Are you serious?
Is that right? That'll be right down below his number, but by then. In the wonderful world of the internet, this could be Dan Monteroso asking that question, so you never know for sure. Is there anything you think this team is lacking, though, in the receiving core? Better said, what are you focusing on in recruiting in terms of the kind of receivers you want to see? You've obviously got a stable of guys that you have, and you're looking forward to coaching them here.
Mm-hmm.
But what's your focus in terms of where this offense is going to be, and what kind of guys are you trying to recruit?
Well, I think the biggest thing we're trying to find first is guys that have that love the game of football. They love playing the game. They have a passion for playing the game. They want to, of course, get a great education from an institution like Purdue, and then can they make plays? And I think that's one thing you look for, that football IQ, and are they capable of making plays and on a consistent basis.
Danny Anthrop stepped into a pretty big role this spring with a couple of those other guys, being out. Knopf, I think he plays Knopf's position, if I'm recalling correct. Just, how do you think he performed, and what kind of role can you see him having in the fall?
Well, I think he was probably the most consistent wide receiver we had this spring from a playmaking standpoint, from a blocking standpoint, just from an overall consistency. And that's what we're looking for in this room because he's one of our veterans in that room right now, going into his junior season. But he's a guy that we're looking for great things from, and I think right now he has a hold on that flanker position. And I told these guys before in their meetings this week that there's really no starters. There's still an open competition. But we're still on evaluation each day, all the way through the summer conditioning, all the way up until preseason camp.
Now, you're not an old man, but you've had some experience. You've been to other places, obviously Virginia Tech, Ohio University, on down the line. What's it take to, and you've had winning seasons and maybe some seasons that didn't go as well. What's it take to change that mindset and to get this team looking at what it takes to win? I mean, it's obviously you want to turn things around as quickly as possible, but you have, you got to change the mindset too. Talk about what that takes and how, and maybe draw from some of your experiences of what do you tell your guys every day about getting better?
Well, just stay the course. Coach Hazel has a great plan in place, and as a coaching staff, we're trying to stay focused and stay on that path, and we're doing the same thing with our players. Hey, just keep working on the little things, master your craft, and good things will happen. And that's all we've been preaching to these guys: is stay focused, do the little things, master your craft, and stay focused. Don't. You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days, but just stay the course, and everything will work out.
Have you ever coached a team as young offensively as last year's?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, at Virginia Tech in 2008.
Yeah.
We lost 18, 19 seniors, I believe it was, and I was playing with 4 freshman wide receivers there. And it's a similar, situation that we're in here. But, and I take a little bit of those experience with these guys. But, they're different kids, different times. So, but they're working hard and really like what they're all about.
The film watching, it's always interesting to me where you see guys as freshmen, and then you talk about D'Angelo, Yancey, the ability to see things on film. Does it typically, in all your experience, does the light bulb come on? Does it take a couple of years, literally, for them to be able to stand out there while the ball's waiting to be snapped and be able to know, exactly, be able to make that a read that can make a big play? Does it sometimes take that long?
Well, no question. It takes time, but I think the biggest thing is these guys have to get in, and when they're away from the coaches, they need to go in there and watch film with the quarterbacks and by themselves and learn and watch what we've learned in the meeting room and see things. And then once the game slows down, that's when they start to play faster. And I think we're starting to get there, but we're not there yet. And I think that's a process that we're going to continue to work on this summer, going into preseason camp, because, we still have a fairly young quarterback as well, too. So he's seeing different things, but we all have to get on the same page, even maybe the same sentence. And I think if we can do that, we're going to be successful.
Seemingly, and you just focus mainly on the wide receivers, obviously, but seemingly you guys have some young talent on offense, right? Are you pretty encouraged? You look at it on paper and you look pretty deep at the skill positions and tight ends and, running backs, and the quarterback is young but seems to have some talent. Do you feel pretty encouraged about, the guys that you have?
Oh, yes, no question. We feel very confident in these guys and their capabilities and how they play the game, but it's just going to be, they're going to have to be in those situations, and they're just going to learn how to. And the one word we're always taught preaching to these guys as well is finishing. And if we can sustain mental endurance, mental and toughness, those types of things, and finish and play with great effort, the wins will come.
Talk about recruiting to Purdue University, and you've been at Virginia Tech, which has some similarities in terms of the type of school it is and the academic background and all that. Now, having been a one-year veteran of living in West Lafayette, what do you think? What are the biggest things you stress when you're recruiting kids here to West Lafayette?
Well, to me, it's about people. I think it's if you can recruit young men and say you got good people here, you got good players, you got good students, and you can get a great, meaningful degree from Purdue, and you get them on campus. I think that's the big thing. If we can get kids on campus and show them our campus and get around people, because I think that's what this thing is all about, is getting around good people and show them that you care about them. And if you can do those things, they have a bright future, and it's here at Purdue.
What have you liked about your experience in a year in this town, and what impresses you about this community?
Well, like I said, I like the people, the nicest of the people, the university. It's a beautiful university, and I like the Big Ten. I like Purdue and what we're all about, and just looking for great things here in the future.
We have somebody on here who wants to know how many games you're going to win next year. You want to put a number on it?
I do not.
13. 13 is the number.
Not at this time. Our goal.
14.
That's right, because the playoff
14
is
would
this
be the
year.
right
Yeah,
number,
14 would be the right number.
Our goal is just to keep working hard to go 1-0.
Good answer, Coach. That's a good answer from that standpoint. Anybody else that surprised you that you didn't mention about, but guys that might come to the fore from the receiving corps? You obviously talked about Miles Norwood, but outside of the other guys we mentioned, anybody else that kind of impressed you as a guy that made some real strides forward from the receiving corps?
Well, like I said, the guy that really stands out to most to me is Danny Anther.
Yeah.
I just think he's done everything the right way. He's worked hard. He's great work ethic, and I just looking for great things from him this fall.
You have a couple of guys who are playing, I guess, other positions. Akeem Hunt is a running back who will play some in the slot, and Delapo McCarthy is a tight end who will play some in the slot. I imagine you work a little bit with those guys out there and
Well,
some of those things. How do you sort of, balance your receivers with two other guys who are also playing a receiver position?
Well, what we've been trying to do is steal reps, so to speak, from those guys that when they're not on the field at running back or tight end, try to get them in, to give my guys a break, to put them in those positions where, because they know the offense. Delapo has been in my room before, so he understands the big picture, and I think Akeem Hunt is a guy that has a great talent. I think, we looked at the spring game on Monday, and you look up and you look at the stats. Here's a guy that has 9 catches and over, 50-some yards, and then he had some rushes as well. He's very productive. So, as you know, he's probably one of our best guys, and that needs to be on the field.
Yeah, from that standpoint, he did stand out from that standpoint. And then you have a guy like Raheem Mostert, who was a receiver, moves back to the back to the running back position, but do you look at this offense and say some of its strength is in its speed in certain places that can make it a team that might be tough to defend this year?
I would like to think so, but like I said, the whole thing with us is consistency. And if we can, not beat ourselves and be consistent week in and week out, that'll give us an opportunity to win ball games.
Well, it is not far away. Well, we're not wishing away the summer, or for that matter, this weekend. But the Boilermakers will open up August 30th against Western Michigan, and fall camp. I don't know about August the 2nd, 3rd, somewhere around there. When they report. So we'll look forward to doing it. Coach, thanks so much for taking the time to join us today. And
thank you.
And we will look forward to having you on again. I know it will be right on your calendar the next time you get the chance to come on.
Just let me know.
All right, Coach. We will take a short break and bring in Chris, a couple of Chris's, Chris Clopton and Chris Pelliadot. We'll talk Purdue football tickets, the Golden Pete's, and more on our final segment of the year on Gold and Black Live.